Hi everyone, we will start with the soapbox for the GSAA UG election for 2024 now. Before we begin, a few instructions. Anyone that is found creating nuisance is going to be escorted out. You're not allowed to anti-poll, you're not allowed to give galis, you're not allowed to shout anything personal. किसी ने instructions follow नहीं किया है, सीधा ईडाक लगा देंगे, सीधा बाहर निकाल देंगे. तुमको चिल्लाना है, जब कैंडिडेट बात कर रहा है तब कोई नहीं चिल्लाएगा. Anyone found screaming when the candidates are talking will be removed out. ठीक है, those are the instructions. So we'll begin with the soapbox now. The first part of the soapbox is going to be the opening statement. So each candidate is going to be given 3 minutes to make an opening statement. Arjun, you can go first.
Good evening everybody. I am Arjun Simha, a third year mechanical engineering student, and I am contesting for the position of General Secretary Academic Affairs UG. I've been part of the Undergraduate Academic Council for the last 2 years. Let me just run you through my journey. I was that fresher who desperately wanted to learn finance but I had nowhere to go. And that's when I came across the Undergraduate Academic Council. I started my journey as a convener of the Finance Club, where I was instrumental in organizing the first offline edition of FinFest. I faced countless setbacks and had many successes as I went on to become the manager of the Finance Club under UGAC. I went in as the manager with one vision: to make finance accessible for each and every student at IIT Bombay. To do that, we collaborated with numerous companies, including the likes of IMC Trading and Jane Street. My entire journey at IIT Bombay led me to this day and this moment to put in my all and win your support to become the next General Secretary Academic Affairs UG. My vision, if elected as the GSAA UG, is to bridge the gap between students and academics at IIT Bombay. My vision, if elected, is to focus on each and every student at IIT Bombay. Each and every student will be given any academic support that they need and they require. Even if they cannot ask for help, I will be their GSAA UG. Even if they don't know who to ask for help from, I will be there for them and UGAC will be there for them. I've done my groundwork not only with stakeholders in the academic system, but also with common people who face problems that we can't even fathom. And I have designed my initiatives to impact each and every UG student at IIT Bombay to uphold one motto only: Jnanam Paramam Dhyayam. Thank you.
Candidates, please note you are not allowed to name any external organizations or people. Rishabh, you may begin.
Mic check, am I audible? Thank you. Hello everyone. It's so nice to see you all here at SAC OAT this evening with such energy. I am Rishabh Rao, a third year undergraduate from the Department of Electrical Engineering, and I'm going for the position of General Secretary Academic Affairs UG. I strongly believe in IIT Bombay's motto, Jnanam Paramam Dhyayam, which means knowledge is the supreme goal. and I have followed this goal since my first year here at IIT Bombay as the elected class representative for the electrical department. In my second year, I was selected as the Institute Academic Coordinator at Career Cell, and over here, I had the opportunity to serve more than 5,000 undergraduates to clear their queries and any academic related grievances. Inspired by the magnitude of impact we had, I further continued my journey at UGSE as the Department Research Coordinator, where I facilitated the first ever annual Semiconductor Summit. Academics is the primary reason why students come to IIT Bombay. And to enhance our students' overall academic experience is what inspires me. This position empowers me to deliver an academic support framework to bridge the various gaps in the learning experience of our UG community. My driving force stems from the magnitude of impact I can deliver through this position. I strongly believe that there are two major factors that hamper the academic learnings of our students. A being the rigidity of the processes, and B, the constant stressful environment our students are subjected to. In order to mitigate this, I've been working towards to push a more flexible academic support framework. One such example would be to enable students to register before the fee payment deadline if those who have financial aids, etc. Continuing in lieu with the stress mitigation reforms, I'll be pushing for a student launch in the academic auditorium. Not only do I plan to provide physical comfort by such initiatives, but also virtual comfort by pushing for initiatives such as an Insti-Dost bot. And finally, and most importantly, to ensure equal accessibility to all the students, I'll be bridging the linguistic gaps by pushing for multilingual TA sheets. Overall, my vision is to improve the academic experience and the well-being of our student community.
Rishabh, the time.
Yeah. The quote that motivates me is, somewhere inside all of us is the power to change the world.
When the EC says the time is up, please. Thank you. Guys, please be silent. Candidates, please do not mention credentials that are not approved by the EC or OPT. Don't mention credentials that are not EC approved. You are not allowed to do that. Rishabh, I'm specifically mentioning CR is not a credential that the EC approved. Please don't mention that. We'll move on to the next part of the soapbox now, which is the manifesto debate. So each candidate will be able to ask the other candidate questions on 3 manifesto points. Each point can be discussed for a maximum of 5 minutes, and they'll have they get up to 5 rebuttals each. So have you guys taken each other's manifesto already, or no? Be seated. So we'll begin with the manifesto debate now. Arjun, first question to Rishabh, your time starts with.
My first question is about your point to push to establish a student lounge in the lecture auditorium. The question is, what is your role as the General Secretary Academic Affairs UG in actually building this proposed student lounge, as the Hostel Affairs Council is going to be responsible for building it and setting up all the infrastructure in the lounge?
Thank you, Arjun, for the question. So, in lieu with the dean's mission, the dean believes that the general secretary should serve beyond the council and be the general secretary for the students. And by establishing such a student launch, I aim to bridge the gap by enabling better academic conducive place for our students.
I feel my question was not answered. Your aim of bridging the gap is fine. I want to know what is your role in doing that, because you are not going to build the lounge, nor are you going to set up the infrastructure. So it's not clear to anyone and me what your role is here. What are you going to
do? Not only will I be involved in the ideation of this intellectual property that I have come up with, I'll also be involved in facilitating the reforms and what other upgrades we can have to the student launch to enable students to have better academic excellences.
Right. I want to understand how you can call this your intellectual property when this same point was also mentioned in another candidate's manifesto in this year's election is number one. Number two, you not even built the lounge yet. How can you say that your role will be reforms and upgrades? And even then, what reforms and upgrades in terms of academic facilities are you talking about, right? I'm not able to actually piece together your argument here.
So to clarify the first question, it's pretty simple. Two people can independently come up with the same idea. I hope that was pretty obvious. And coming to the reforms and upgrades, it's not just about putting desks and chairs. You have to facilitate, you have to understand what the needs of the students are, how much capacity the students need, what type of collaborative workspace are students looking for in order to develop our academic community.
Right. So again, the same things are spoken about ideating a collaborating workspace and estimating desk capacity. So basically you're telling me that all you're going to do as the GSA UG is come up with ideas, but the Hostel Council is going to actually do the work. So your job is just ideating a couple of things.
So there's this concept called legacy issues, where someone just ideates and leaves it over. The position of the General Secretary of Academic Affairs is to ensure that the academic student launch that we have IIT Bombay is not just initiated, but becomes the best in the country. This includes multiple ideation factors, including observations from other institutes globally, and implementing them in IIT Bombay successfully. And the reason why the General Secretary of Academic Affairs is conducting this is because it is to improvise the academic facilities of IIT Bombay.
Okay, so since you're just circling about the same point, this will be my final rebuttal. Just to reiterate, you're saying that the Hostel Affairs Council will do everything. You will ideate one or two ideas, and hence you are able to impact academics and help students. If that's fair, all right.
So that would be absolutely incorrect visualization of this issue. A person needs to understand the gravity of the situation. Currently, the institute faces a lack of seating arrangements. The library cannot facilitate more than 10% of the student seating capacity. So this is in lieu in the vision of the institute to improvise the seating arrangements in the institute. Additionally, students have these issues where there is an empty slot between two courses. And when there is 1 hour slot that's empty between two courses, students ends up missing either the first course or the second course. So we are also enabling students to better facility.
You're still not building the lounge. You're just ideating. You're still not building the lounge.
Next question, Rishabh, you may.
So to target your manifesto point 16, you propose to add a rate my professor feature on Resobin, I want to ask, what is the need of this initiative?
Right. Thanks for that question. So, there's a very simple need for this question. The professors who take a course change, and students might not be able to just understand how the professor's form of teaching might be or any other parameters just based on code reviews. Hence, I want to add a Rate My Professor section to Resobin.
Do you know that IIT Bombay already has provisions for such purposes? And if you're aware of these, could you name the provisions that currently the institute facilitates?
So, you're talking about professor feedback that students fill.
So that is partially the right answer. There is much more available out there. Apart from the institute facilitated course feedbacks that happen during the mid-semester and end semester, we also have the DAMP reviews, the Resobin reviews and much more. Continuing, rating a professor itself is like attacking them, and the institute wouldn't allow you to rate a professor. Don't you think this is inherently problematic?
Thank you so much. These three questions can actually help me emphasize my point so much better. So, point number one, professor feedback. This feedback is only privy to the administration. I want this information to be in the hands of students because I'm empowering students. Coming to your second point about DAMP and Resobin reviews, So coming to your second point about DAMP and Resobin reviews, again, you're making a fallacy here. I just mentioned this is not course feedback, it's professor feedback. You made the same error and said that, there's course feedback available, what am I doing? So hence, helping me accentuate the difference between what you're saying and what my point is. And coming to the third point about this being a so-called attack on professors, there's a mechanism that actually ensures this isn't an attack on professors, and if you see closely in my manifesto point, I've used the word filtered, which if you notice would have been nice.
So in conclusion, we are rating the professors publicly. Currently, even the course content, even the PYQs, the professors are not comfortable sharing it on Resobin. And now we are introducing a feature where professors will also be publicly rated on Resobin.
Right. So
I'm not done
again,
yet. Please don't interrupt me. Additionally, you call it filtered, right? When you filter it, what kind of filtration are you using? Are you rating professors numerically and again deducting some responses? In that case, A, it is not an acceptable form of feedback, and B, a gradient among professors is still being formed, which is what the inherent problem is.
So you just assumed what my feedback mechanism would be. I would really appreciate if you next time onwards don't just assume what I have in mind and ask me. And second, you don't get to say what is relevant and what is irrelevant to students. That is up to the students, and it's not in your hands, it's not your opinion.
Since we're talking about what is in the hands of the GSA UG, the purpose of the GSA UG is to bridge the gap between professors and students. But over here, by having a platform where you rate professors, you are alienating the gap between professors and students. What are your views on that?
Again, unless you actually understand what the mechanism is, you cannot claim that I'm alienating professors. So I urge you to actually probe into what this mechanism might be before making wild claims saying that I'm alienating professors. And second, the purpose of the GSA UG isn't just to...
We can close this point. next question onwards, I'll give you guys a track and just 15-20 seconds left, okay? You can go ahead. You can start.
Right. I want to ask a question on your point about implementing a pre-ARP intervention. What pre-intervention measures will you take, and how exactly are you going to align this to the new curriculum?
So currently, the ARP system identifies students when they have reached about 36 credits of backlog. What I plan to do is to early identify students. To identify students early on when they are in the first semester and second semester onwards, and when they already have a backlog or two. This is because students who just entered IIT Bombay from the big race of JEE, receiving a backlog would be mentally deteriorating for them. And this is the early intervention process. As for your second question, in lieu with the new curriculum was designed.
I feel my point was not answered.
Please be concise and try to answer the question.
I asked how you will identify them, not who will
As you
identify.
we convey it, he'll answer the question. You don't need to interrupt him.
So there are already existing frameworks from which the mentorship team receives the number of students who have 2 backlogs, 3 backlogs in their first year onwards. We'll be utilizing the system and providing from the academic council a support system to these students. Additionally, in lieu with new curriculum, the new curriculum was designed with an ethos to increase the interest of students as well as to reduce the stress. Now, if a student with a new curriculum still proceeds to have 36 credits of backlog, that means the student is in a much more deeper spectrum than the previously existing ARP category. Therefore, we need to potentially reduce the credit limits that a student needs to have in number of backlogs to get into the ARP category. This is just one of the examples. Much more examples can be ideated by the ARP committee, which is much more designed to come up with such an idea.
Right. So, what framework will
Guys, when the candidates are trying to talk, please don't make noise.
What?
If you make noise when they're trying to talk, we'll escort you out.
What frameworks does the SMP team use to identify the students? And what support system are you going to provide from UGAC? Because as far as I know, the UGAC is always busy with our initiatives. So I'm not able to understand what manpower you're providing. And third, could you please elaborate on your point on reducing the credit limits? That was not coherent to me at all.
So in the current framework, the DAMCs receive the data on the department level on the students in the first year who have 2, 3 backlogs, etc. Coming to the second question mentioned, that UGC is busy with initiatives. Maybe the UGC that you aspire might be busy with initiatives, but the UGC that I aspire is also Innovate Academic Council of IIT Bombay. And lastly, to make my point clear, the current academic curriculum that we have is supposed to be easy. And with this easy curriculum, if you still have more backlogs, that means you are in a much more severe case of an ARP. Therefore, we should identify these ARP students earlier and thus redefine the ARP category. I hope that was clear enough.
Guys, please be quiet when the candidates are trying to talk.
I find the second statement highly concerning, because you're saying that the UGAC you want doesn't aspire to have their hands full with initiatives. That is very concerning to me, right? Number one. Number two, so I want to understand, if you're saying that 36 credits is too deep, what number of credits do you think should be used for a student to actually fall into the ARP category?
Guys, please be quiet. The candidate is trying to answer. Do not speak in between.
UGC has always been a dynamic body, and I aspire to push it to its fullest potential as much as we can. And as for your second question on what would be the specific details of the credit limits, I believe the intelligence that's required to come up with this will be formed by the accurate discussions that happen inside the convening of the ARP committee, because the conveners of the ARP committee are those who are in that position because they know what's required for the student. As a General Secretary of Academic Affairs, if elected, I'll be in that committee and I'll be able to hear the views of the students and push for it such that it's what our students need in the end.
EC, factual correction, the GS. Right. So just to be clear, basically you said
Please conclude.
you want to overwork the council and you want to include more students in ARP by reducing the number of credits. I hope everyone here has heard that. Thank you.
We'll move on to questions. Next question, Rishabh Kumar.
So you want to develop a portal to provide updates on the status of applications and academic documents submitted for approval. Can you tell what are the exhaustive features of such a portal and what is the workflow of this portal?
Right. This portal is very simple. It is going to be a sort of, it's going to be a portal where anyone in the department office will type in the roll number of a student, the email ID of a student, and just click on a simple enter button. Then that will essentially convey an email to the student who has submitted a document that their document has left the department office and is in transit to the Dean AP office. That is step 1. Step 2 would be in the Dean AP's office when they move the document from the office staff to Dean AP themselves. They'll use a very similar, they use the same portal. They type in the student's roll number and their LAP, their email ID, and the student gets an update that their document has now moved into the Dean AP's chamber and it's now up for approval or rejection.
So there's something called the application management system. This is a digital portal that already exists in the institute. The student has to just fill up the applications that they need to submit, and on that portal they can tag the required signatures they need to receive. For example, for the suggested workflow that we just gave, the student would initially give it to the required HOD or the department council, the DGSE, and then once the DGSE approves a signature, the student automatically gets a mail notifying that this has already been signed by the HOD. And once that happens, the student from the same portal can just send it to the required Dean AP or any other associates, and once they put the signature, the student is again given a notification on email. So what new are you adding to
ये
this?
सुन के मुझे बस एक चीज समझ आई, आपको ये नहीं पता था कि आजकल डीन एपी बस हार्ड कॉपी रिक्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं और एएमएस के वो तो नहीं बोलता, तो मेरे को नहीं पता क्या बोल रहे आप.
Please, you can make your point without making personal statements. Please keep this in.
I know, I'm very happy to explain this difference. So now हम अगर हार्ड कॉपी भेज रहे तो ये पोर्टल बहुत काम में आएगा, एंड जो आपने बोला वो काफी अलग है, एंड मुझे समझा नहीं कि क्या इंटरसेक्शन है.
So this minute change of where the portal that already exists, what we are suggesting is to create a whole new portal with such framework to get its security verified by the admins, etc. While a small minute change on the AMS portal can facilitate it. And UGC, do you think UGC's bandwidth is sufficient to create such a portal? Have you gotten the security verifications that you can go ahead with such a portal?
Right. So first talking about UGC bandwidth, I have actually done my groundworks with the UGC webheads. I don't know if you have, so yes, I know that you have the bandwidth. And second of all, if you really think that making a tweak on AMS is so easy, please explain the process yourself, because it is not that easy.
Arjun, please answer the question with an answer. Don't ask any question.
really not very easy, and hence I want to build an entire new portal. And coming to the point of security clearances, there are not too many security clearances. Once you build a portal, you just need to integrate it with ASC, and that will be up to ASC on how they do it. That's when we pass off the portal to them. So that is not in our hands as the GSA user.
To summarize what the GSA candidate UG has said, basically it's not very easy. And in addition to that, you're also planning to integrate with ASC. Have you taken the required groundworks from the stakeholders involved, like name the stakeholders involved, name the groundworks you've taken, and what conclusions come out of this? And additionally, how happy are they with the student-built platform being integrated in the official IIT Bombay instituted ASC portal?
Right. I have taken the required groundworks with the head of ASC. He has said that it's an interesting concept, and if built, then they will look into it. So they are not denying this off the bat, they are interested in the idea.
Next question comes from Rishabh.
I want to talk about the point where you say you want to follow up on implementing double majors in the new curriculum. My question would be, what do you think the credit requirements for double majors should be? And how will you ensure that all departments are on board with this? And how will you make sure that slot clashes for compulsory core courses are avoided while implementing this?
Mic check. Hello? Yeah. So as to answer your first question, the number of credits required, we are exploring the possibility of having 72 credits from the external department which you want to pursue a double major from. Second thing that you mentioned is how do you ensure that all departments are on board with it. The essence of it is you need not have all departments to be on board with it. Any two departments that are willing to collaborate and go ahead with the double majors programs would be sufficient for us to establish this initially. And lastly, you mentioned about the slot clashes. The proposal is in such a way that the students continue to pursue the external department core courses from their 5th semester onwards. From the 5th semester onwards in the new curriculum, you have very less core courses. Therefore, there will not be much chances of having a slot clash.
What departments have you spoken to? Who have you spoken to from these departments? And how do you think they'll actually get convinced with just 72 credits from their department when you might roughly need more than around 120 credits to complete an actual BTech in a certain department? And I'm only talking about core, not the first year courses and electives. So how are you going to convince them of that, and who have you spoken to?
I have spoken to the required HODs as well as the DG6 of various departments to understand how the policy would have been passed in their departments. And to come to your second question about the credits, the diversion of credits, etc. It's interesting that you came to a number 110 or something in the first place. IIT Kanpur already has a successful model where they have established something similar to IIT Bombay, and we'll be following that.
So you're saying that, okay, first, you didn't answer my question on how actually you're going to convince them that 72 credits is okay, because many departments are not going to be okay with that. Second, are you saying that just because it happens in IIT Kanpur, it should happen at IIT Bombay? You're using an anecdotal example, and I don't really think that's valid to justify my question.
there's a concept called innovating initiatives through precedences. The precedence of all the IITs is something that we'll be utilizing here. It is easier to develop a new initiative in your own IIT if it's already established in some similar IIT, because that's how IITs function. With that precedence, we'll be proposing it to the dean. And IIT Kanpur, the IIT Kanpur's success measure of the double majors is so intense that there is a really high conversion rate. And not only is the conversion rate high, the students who undergo double majors would have better MSc chances, etc. And that would also increase IIT Bombay's QS ranking, which is the motivation of the IIT Bombay to go ahead with such an establishment.
Right. So we're talking about innovating through precedent. So essentially you're saying that just because the professors and administration at IIT Kanpur is okay with it, just through precedents, that IIT Bombay's administration would be okay with it. That is one flaw I see with this. Second, the students at IIT Bombay have different needs and have different academic issues than the students at IIT Kanpur. So you cannot justify this just by using that example.
Students of IIT Bombay have different needs from students of IIT Kanpur. I won't touch much upon that statement, but what we're looking at here is what do students do after they graduate? What are the opportunities of the students? Because students join IIT Bombay not only to just have good academics, but also what lies ahead of IIT Bombay. And this initiative is in line to improvise what students can go next.
Everyone, there is a factual correction to what Rishabh said. The policy is not going to, it does not have to go to departments, it has to be proposed in the UGPC via the GSEC, not the DGSEC in department. It will not be pushed in the departments.
I didn't mention that I'll be pushing for the departments.
You said, you discussed with HODs how it will be pushed in their departments. That's what you discussed. It will not be pushed in the departments, it will be pushed in the UGPC via the GSA UG. Next question, Rishabh, you can ask question.
Your manifesto point 12, push to allow running of summer courses for courses that no longer exist in the new curriculum, even if the number of enrolled students is less than 5. Is this feasible and practical for the professors?
Right. Thank you for that question. So talking about feasibility and practicality, most of the times if number of students enrolled is less than 5, the problem isn't with convincing the professor or the feasibility from that point of view. It's the fact that the rule book does not allow it yet, and that's why the dean himself doesn't allow it, because there is a financial incentive for professors to take summer courses. They're paid roughly half as much as they're paid for a normal course. So the issue here isn't about practicality and feasibility, it's about the policy change so that the Dean AP can actually approve or sign off on allowing summer courses even if the number of students enrolled is less than 5.
If you are taking sufficient groundworks from the ex-ISAs, you will realize that what you said is incorrect. But moving on, first of all, convenience of the professors, and you mentioned professors get paid XYZ. If not having to undertake a summer course, professors will get into other research platforms, etc., where they are financially supported with much more rigorousness than what a summer course would have offered. And to conduct a summer course, the professor has to, quote unquote, spend their summers here teaching. So lastly, a question for you is, what do you think are the ways students use to clear backlogs currently?
Your argument about professor convenience is too subjective. That's the first thing. Second thing, usually students can clear backlogs if there's an NPTEL equivalent too. And These cases, you might want to consider if there are or there aren't.
That is an incomplete answer. Apart from NPTEL courses, students can also clear it by taking through equivalent courses or by having the credits waived off in exceptions. Additionally, do you think summer course is the most convenient way for students to clear their backlogs?
Coming to your first point about equivalence, naturally we're doing this if there are no equivalents present, and if you're taking requisite groundworks with HODs, you would have known that in the new curriculum there are some departments that face the issue of not having any equivalents. And yeah, coming to your second part about do you think it's the most efficient? I have no one to comment on the efficiency as I am a single student, but as a GSA UG, I'll be serving every student, every UG student at IIT Bombay. So I believe that it's a false, it's not right for me to answer that question.
As a GSA, it is important to understand the students' needs, and summer courses are least convenient for students because they run in the summers and students have to do their internships and other activities during the summer. This is hindering the growth of students' career. Also, are you aware of the previous models? So my question to you is, do you know any other models that have been successfully implemented in the past regarding your initiative?
There are also self-study courses, but as you know that self-study courses are only allowed for students after their final.
I didn't ask about self-study, but moving on to my question, do you know any other models that have been successfully implemented in the past in lieu with your initiative?
Again, NPTEL, self-study and equivalence. And summer courses, you cannot completely comment on the efficiency saying that students might have interns because at some point you just had to clear the course.
So by models, I wanted to ask you, do you know examples of courses where when there were less than 5 students, it was allowed to run or not allowed to run?
Last answer.
Excuse me, I just explained my question. This is what I implemented. I have one more question left.
The time ratio, because of the time.
Sure.
Right. There are courses within the energy department where this has been faced, and that is where I've actually got this idea from.
Okay, everyone. So we're done with the manifesto debate of this section. We'll now move on to the topic debate. So context for the audience. The candidates have both sometime before the soapbox been informed of 4 topics that are relevant to UG academics that they will have to give their opinion on. So we'll give them chits. 2 topics will be discussed. Both of you will speak on one topic. Both of you will speak first on one topic. So we'll give the chits. You pick the chit you pick. You'll speak first. The chit he picks. He'll speak first. Both of you get 2 minutes to speak and give your view each, and then you can ask each other 1 question and 1 rebuttal for 3 minutes. So we'll hand over the topics. So, so everyone will begin with the topic debate now. I'll just read out the topic for all of your context. So the first topic is to discuss the changes in the undergraduate academic curriculum. So the UG curriculum was revamped under the Kishore Chatterjee Committee and implemented for the 2022 intake batch onwards. And the Dipankar Chaudhary Committee further reduced the mandated number of credits to required to avail a BTech degree. Can you talk about these changes briefly? What was done, why was it done, and what was the thought process? That's the first part. How effective were they in achieving the set goal based on your groundworks, and how has this changed the student experience? So please mention specific insights and not broad statements for this. Lastly, is there anything you would like to propose about these changes in your tenure? So, yeah, you can start, Arjun.
I want to structure my thoughts and my views like this. I'll start with the what, then the why, and then the vision. And then I can also talk about what I have in my manifesto about the new curriculum. So let's talk about what they did. Essentially, students are now introduced to their parent department and to get a gist of what happens there by having two DICs in the first year, DIC 1 and DIC 2. They also introduce Makerspace as a course to increase the amount of practical exposure that students get, and also hazmat courses have been included to sort of expose students to many more spheres instead of just core engineering, right? In the second year, students have courses on AI and ML to sort of give them educate them on the skills required to prosper in their careers and the skills needed in the latest environment. And also the number of electives have been increased. There are now interdisciplinary STEM electives and hazmat electives, again with the same aim of giving people more exposure. So the main vision of this is that the committee essentially felt that students at IIT Bombay are focused a lot on career accomplishments, and therefore they need a lot of flexibility in their curriculum. Hence the increased number of electives, and also hazmat courses being introduced. That is one thing. Second thing is they felt that core jobs were mainly available to students only in some departments, not all. And therefore, to get students ready for jobs outside their core engineering disciplines, they've introduced courses like AI and ML, and also the flexibility adds to that, right? So one more thing that the committee actually felt strongly about was that lab courses are not in sync with theory courses. And hence they started working on and they introduced the Makerspace course. And this has helped them to increase and improve the students' experience regarding lab courses and practical exposure towards projects. In terms of effectiveness, it is a good step in the right direction, but the Makerspace labs and the design lab that students have, there are many issues faced by them time after.
Rishabh, you may begin. Guys, please be quiet. Rishabh, you may begin.
So I'll be talking about the branch change at IIT Bombay. As it was formulated by the Academic Stress Mitigation Committee, ASMC, the main aim of the removal of branch change was to reduce the constant stressful environments that the first year students are subjected to. Why does this happen? Well, first year is a transactional period for a lot of students. They come from the JEE race and they're put in this environment, this lovely environment at IIT Bombay. It is very important that the student undergoes an all-round development in their first year. And that's why they have multidisciplinary curriculums that involves NSS, NSO, and NCC, etc. During this development, the students are also subjected to a lot of stress, and this can be very harmful. Moreover, the new education policy, NEP, as well as the new UG curriculum promotes liberalization of the education. This enables students to decrease the number of stress and have a more flexible academic curriculum.
This allows the students to pursue their interests with greater extent due to the great flexibility that they are receiving. Given that the students have such a flexibility, students are no longer required to go through the tough process of branch change and study the specialization of their choice. Policies like double majors that I'm introducing in my manifesto aims to facilitate the removal of branch change. That's about it. Rishabh, you have 3 minutes to question Arjun if you want. So I'd like to understand what Arjun believes is the KCC curriculum's ethos.
The KCC's curriculum ethos was, again, liberalization of the curriculum and provide students at IIT Bombay with more flexibility than what was provided previously. This is essentially done through interesting lab courses so students understand how practical work is, not just theoretical courses. And also so they have an opportunity to explore broader interests through courses, and also through a slightly decreased course load, they have the ability to explore their interests outside the classroom and also develop themselves as a complete individual to go into the workforce or into the real world as a leader.
The ethos of KCC curriculum is incomplete. Additionally, KCC curriculum was also developed to align the students' interest much more better. Continuing, what do you think are the shortcomings of the KCC?
So you asked me what my views on the ethos were. So you just gave me your view and said I'm incorrect. So I didn't really understand that.
I would like to. This is mentioned in the first slide of the KCC curriculum. What the ethos are?
You asked me what my views were, but okay. Coming to shortcomings, I believe there needs to be greater documentation about the new curriculum. That is the first thing. Second thing is there are some courses where, because course content isn't supervised completely, there is some issue with the continuity of courses. Just to give you an example, CH110. CH110 is the DIC in the chemistry department. It has 2 parts, organic spectroscopy and inorganic spectroscopy. But if a professor decides to teach general inorganic chemistry, maybe D block and F block, instead of inorganic spectroscopy, that would be a huge issue, because in the 2nd and 3rd year, if students have to come across a course where inorganic spectroscopy would be a prerequisite, they would face issues in performing well in this course. So I believe one shortcoming is lack of course content oversight, and yeah, that's it.
Can you name the number of employees from whom the feedback was taken to develop the KCC curriculum?
The number of employees exactly is not completely relevant. I focus on relevant groundworks than mugging up that number. And also, I know that we took feedback from alumni, students, professors. And we took it from a decent number of all of them.
So the purpose of asking this question was because we asked feedback from less than 5 number of employees. And why this is relevant is because we do not know what company wants from our students. That was not considered when we were factoring the KCC curriculum, and that is one of the shortcomings of the KCC curriculum, that we do not know what the companies want. Time is up. Arjun, you can ask question.
You spoke about reducing stress and a transitional period, but so can you tell me if there was a student representative in the ASMC? That was cool.
Can you repeat your question?
Could you tell me one big flaw in the decision process of the ASMC?
The ASMC was convened without any student representative.
Right. And because of that, there is something that you also have not touched upon here. You've spoken about stress reduction, but the polar opposite argument can also be given, how that student personas aren't the same, and what some people consider as a lot of stress is a motivator for others. So I want to understand your views on that, and how come you didn't factor that into your discussion at all?
So the committee felt the reason for the excessive competition was because of the existence of the branch change in the end of the first year. This was based on the experience the committee had, the institute had with the informal interaction they had with students. Furthermore, with the groundworks I have taken, I also understood from students, comparing over the years, that branch change indeed was a factor that stressed a section of students.
So, again, you've spoken about the committee. Again, I asked you why you felt it was not effective, and you said that there's no student representative. So, do you really feel that the committee's views are complete without a student representative is number one. Number two, again, your groundworks are subjective. In my groundworks, I've seen many students who have got immense opportunities in their new branch, which they might have not been able to get in their old branch. So you're completely missing out on another half of the student community by your groundworks is what you're saying.
Please stick to the topic, guys.
So the value of a student representative is very high and very important. This is why one of my motivations to go for the position of General Secretary of Academic Affairs is to be the student representative who can listen out to students and implement the changes required in the policies. In addition to that, there is a very small percent of students, who actually get branch change. But the students who strive for that, who work hard, who get stressed is much more larger. It's the efforts versus outcome what we are looking at, and as we can clearly see, a lot of students put an effort for only little students who get the output, and later in the second year, third year, fourth year, some of the students also doubt if the branch change was worth it.
So you're essentially penalizing students who perform well academically is the essence of this argument. Thanks for that. Second of all, you said that your goal is to give your inputs in policy making, but I think you should know that the reason that this policy has its own flaws and that not every student is happy with it is because the student representative wasn't involved, and that was by no means the fault of the student representative, right? So that should also be kept in mind. I want to understand your
Time is up. Clarification for both the candidates. So, we announced one topic. Both the candidates were supposed to speak on one topic and question each other on that topic, and then start off on the second topic both together. It seems that one spoke about one topic, the other started on the chit they picked, and then they both went on that line. So, small clarification and change to what I announced. We'll continue according to that now. We don't have a choice. So, yeah. So, I'll just announce the second topic. The second topic was branch change at IITB. So the topic was the Institute Senate approved the removal of branch change for UG entrants joining in 2023 and after, as per the recommendations of the Academic Stress Mitigation Committee. What were the reasons the committee proposed this? Evaluate the arguments given by them and give your opinion on the decision and the thought process. Is there anything you will do in your tenure regarding this? So both the candidates were supposed to speak on one topic and then both move on to the second topic, but they mixed them. So we'll have to continue according to that. So both of you speak on both the topics. So Arjun, you spoke about the first topic first, right? ठीक है. Now Rishabh, you can speak on the first topic now.
So the KCC curriculum that was recently introduced was introduced to increase the student, align the students' interest to the curriculum. The plan of action followed by KCC curriculum as of the July of 2022 included to improvise the DIC-1 and DIC-2, proposed for the changes in the Senate to include natural sciences, makerspace, etc. For example, makerspace was new to give students a much more hands-on experience. Hazmat was new to introduce students to having much more broader prospects of an engineering, etc. Coming to in the second year, students were given a chance to take AI/ML courses and explore the prospects of having data science in the in the curriculum, since coding etc. was seen to be a culture in both core and non-core backgrounds. Additionally, in with core electives as well as interdisciplinary minors, the departments were made to reorganize etc. so that they could be appropriately taken by the students.
That's all. Arjun, you can speak on the second topic.
So, talking about the removal of branch change, so the ASMC took some decisions to reduce the stress levels of students. One major issue with the ASMC's decision was that it wasn't taken after consideration and after coordination with the student representative. Although the aim of the committee was very right, student stress levels have gone up. Actually the main reason for setting up this committee is because previously batch sizes were smaller and the diversity between student academic performances wasn't as large as we have now, and that is actually the reason they set it up, right? So after setting up, they took various reforms to reduce student stress levels. That is, no classes on the weekends were allowed, classes after 5 p.m. also were not allowed, right? Two justifications given for branch change were A, it leads to competition and hence a lot of stress, and B, there are options such as minors and IEEE to substitute branch change. So I completely understand and I'm all for stress reduction, but I genuinely feel branch change was an opportunity for students who felt they could not achieve their complete potential before coming to IIT Bombay to achieve their complete potential at IIT Bombay, which is what the General Secretary Academic Affairs of UG should be aiming for each student, right? I feel that there are many things the GSA UG can do to reduce stress levels. In fact, Student Support Services does carry out initiatives for that. So the removal of branch change wasn't completely justified in my view.
Arjun, you may ask Rishabh questions.
We spoke about aligning student interests to the curriculum, but student interests are too varied, and no matter how flexible our curriculum is, at the end of the day, these are just courses, right? There's so many more things that students need to do to align themselves to their interests. So how exactly do you feel this is the ethos of KCC and how is it actually being fulfilled?
I feel it's the ethos of KCC because I have read the KCC curriculum, and in the first slide of the KCC curriculum, it is clearly mentioned that this is the ethos of it. And second thing, while KCC might only affect the courses, students come to IIT Bombay for the academia. Courses is what occupies students' time. Courses is where students put their mental bandwidth hat, and courses is something that affects the student overall. KCC curriculum affecting the courses directly affects the student's lifestyle, therefore impacting the student's interest.
Right. So student interest isn't exactly lifestyle. Yes, I agree. They do come here to study, and courses are a majority of where their time goes at. But courses obviously aren't what all students pursue to, align to their interests and pursue their interests. You just spoke about lifestyle and it was very vague. I want specifics on how you actually feel student interests are catered to by various courses and the flexibility.
with the existing new curriculum of KCC that we have, courses such as HazNet give students an opportunity to explore domains such as entrepreneurship, marketing, humanities, etc. This broad prospect was something that's introduced in IT Bombay for the first time, and this enables students to have a dynamic engineering background, just like how engineers should be. Additionally, Makerspace offers students an opportunity to have a more hands-on, end-to-end experience in building projects, ideating, etc. And in not just that, engineers are known for their thought processes, and that's why the design thinking course that's introduced also improvises out the quality of engineers that IT Bombay can create.
Right. I have spoken to numerous students, and although that is what the committee had in mind. So number one, HazMed has many verticals under it, but there are a lot of allocation issues. So not every student who is interested in entrepreneurship gets to pursue the entrepreneurship course. So one, allocation issues plague this. How do you think that is being tackled? Second, under Makerspace, there are many complaints with the pace of the course, with the understanding going on and the content. So don't you think that is also one big hindrance?
Time is up. So we're done with the topic debate section. We'll now move on to the background check section where both the candidates will be asked questions about their previous work ex. Both the candidates will be asked questions about their previous work experience, and there's 5 minutes per candidate. So we'll start off with Arjun. So Arjun, my question to you is, I'd like to ask you first, what policy work were you involved in your tenure? Because I remember involving you specifically in one piece of policy work. What was it? And you did not come back to me with that after that. After that policy work was given to you, you never came back to me with any progress or what are the next steps to be taken. So why did that not happen?
Right. So the policy work that I was involved in was to understand the professor's views on the recent removal of branch change, and I was tasked to speak to professors who were a part of ASMC and professors who were a part of taking this decision. One major issue that I had to face...
Correction, it was not only branch change, it was the entire ASMC stress initiative. So it was all of those, not only branch change.
Right, the entire ASMC. So one major... So basically, although we did start working on it, a major roadblock was that many professors were not willing to give their views on this, even though we had emailed them multiple times, we even showed up to their cabins. And due to that, we weren't able to collect sufficient feedback, and that is, I will have to improvise on the way we collect, we survey, and we understand data as I want to work on this issue later on if elected in my tenure.
How many members of ASMC did you actually try meeting? And first question, and did you actually speak to anyone from all of this?
Right. We reached out to 3, and that was right at the NSEM period, and I was not able to meet any of them.
Yep. There's one piece of policy work that you were involved in that tenure, and it was a very big study, right? The whole ASMC, it was very impactful to students, and you only emailed 3 professors in that, basically. And so the worst part is you didn't even come back and tell me that profs are not responding. It just went away.
The issue was that we were tasked with this very near to our end semesters, and the second thing is, so doing this actually helped me understand the ASMC and a lot of the thought that went into it, because I did read a lot about the policies there, and second, I understood that maybe what I did here wasn't the best way to pursue this, and there are better ways to do this, so that will help me. This experience helped me understand what I can do if elected in the next 10 years.
But if you're stuck at a roadblock, you're supposed to reach out to someone for help. You'll figure out how to solve that roadblock, right? You can't just face that roadblock and say कि roadblock आ गया था नहीं हुआ. So why didn't you do that?
Okay. So after the end semester exams, the holidays had commenced, and unfortunately, then we all were on vacation. And there was again no suitable way to meet professors. It was a mistake on my part to not come back to immediately. The reason was we had FinFest, which is a Finance Lab's flagship event, and we started working day and night for that as soon as the exams got over. So I had to deviate from the policy work in order to focus on my main responsibility as the manager of Finance Club UGSC.
We concluded here as a finance club manager and the UGC head, you were given another task apart from finance club manager that you took up voluntarily, and then you were not able to do that. So instead of informing me, you just assumed that this is more important, and you didn't feel the need to inform me. So we concluded at that. So next question for Rishabh. So Rishabh, my question for you is, I was going through your DRC work report. In your work report, you have written multiple things which I would like to discuss, which don't seem like they are the duties of a DRC. You did those things personally, and you just mentioned them in your DRC work report without any reason. So I'll just mention a few things like that. The very first one is department review meet. So essentially, I know what those meets are about. You were invited to go to that meet. You went as a student. You gave your opinion, and you've written that as work. That's not work you do. Second, you took a survey on IDDP students. So first of all, that's not the work of the DRC. And again, I would actually like to understand, it's supposed to be done by the DGSEC. If the DGSEC did it, if you did it, I would like to know what you did, because that's not the work of the DRC. And third, you've written one-on-one resume sessions with Sophies or Freshies. I'm sorry, I don't remember which one, but you've written one-on-one resume sessions. So how, that is not anything related to the DRC work. That is something you did on your personal accord to try to help, might have done to try to help people or whatever, and you mentioned it in your DRC work report. So anything you do, if you are a DRC, anything you do anywhere, you mention it in your DRC work report that you have to present to students that this is the official work I did in my capacity as a DRC. So those three things, can you let me know?
So DRCs, as we all know, are part of both the Undergraduate Academic Council as well as the Department Council. And these mentioned initiatives are the ones...
Factual correction, DRCs are not a part of the Department Council. They are a part of the Undergraduate Academic Council, they are not a part of the Department Council.
So I was invited to the department review meet because I was a DRC. The invitation was given to me by the DGSEC of the department. And about the IEEE survey, it was a collaboration between the DRC and the editorial board of the electrical department. And as the DRC, I identified the student grievances regarding the removal of IEEE, which is specific to the electrical department. IEEE is a platform where students can interact.
That's fine. I know we know IEEE is, but what did you do there?
So IEEE was removed only in the electrical department. IEEE was offered a platform for the electrical dual degree students to explore other departments, and this lack of exploration would lead to various consequences like the changes in career path. So what I did is to identify what type of interventions are needed and to identify student grievances.
What did you do? Did you take a survey? Did you only talk to people? I want to understand what you did and how is that related to your DRC work. Why are you mentioning in that in your DRC work report? The first point again, if the DGSEC gave you an invitation to come to a committee, it's nothing to do with your it's not your DRC work. The DGSEC had to call students. The DGSEC called you, you went and you gave your input. That's not DRC work. So you can't mention that in DRC work report. Second, IDDP, tell me exactly what tasks did you do. Don't tell me things like, I understood the problems. What tasks did you do? And the third one also, I'd like to understand how DRC work.
So the inputs that I gave were the inputs of the DRC in lieu with how do you improvise the research of the department, how do you improvise the labs, etc. And what tasks they do in the part of the IEEE was A. Curate the survey that's required, and B. Identify the students who have previously done IEEE and what are their thoughts, etc. Connect the student sources to the editorial board so they can process with the answers that are required. And third, one-on-one resume sessions are specifically conducted for those students who want to create a resume in the core background so they can improvise the research output of the department.
Can you repeat that? How was one-on-one resume session DRC work?
This one-on-one resume was specifically for those who have opted for a core resume, core background, and I was identifying on how they can have a better core resume.
You did that one-on-one resume session with a friend. You did not. Nowhere was the UGSC logo used. Nowhere was the council consulted, right? Was the UGSC logo used anywhere as an official event that you are conducting? It's something you did of your personal accord. So if you did it of your personal accord, you don't say you did it as it was not your DRC work that you present to the Institute Populus.
I did that work because the students found the need for that, and students reached out to me because they thought the department research coordinator can help them in their research ambitions. And the reason I went ahead with it voluntarily was because I wanted to aid any student who needed help, and that's why this
See, you can, I'm not challenging that. Point being, it's not the work you're supposed to do, and you're claiming that you did this in your official capacity in your work report. That is the point I was trying to make. Fine, we can move on. If you want to give any last comment, you can do that. Guys, please let him speak.
So for all the initiatives that include the department review meet, the survey of the IEEE, as well as the one-on-one resume sessions, students reached out to me because they believed how the DRC could help them. Obviously, I could turn them down saying it's not my official duty, but as a student who loves to serve the students and impact our department, I went ahead and conducted it.
Again, last comment, but I have to correct you, that does not justify putting it on your work report. The thing is that there is no problem with that, people can appreciate that. As a DRC, that should not be on your work report was my question. But we move on. So we move on to the next question. We have the section for insight to ask questions to each of the candidates. Is there anyone here? Gula? Insight, are you guys here?
Okay, so my question is to Arjun. So you mentioned career building program. Who will conduct it and who is it conducted for? Also, what will it entail and what resources are you going to provide?
Right. The career building program will be conducted by the career cell and it will mainly impact sophomores. Coming to what resources will be provided, we are not providing resources in terms of preparation, or providing resources in terms of guidance. That is, we are mapping students' journeys with different personas and then helping them understand what job roles are present outside the roles in the institute and how you exactly prepare for those and how seniors prepared for them.
Is it what UGST does? Let's say all the other clubs, let's say finance club, analytics club, all of them conduct sessions. They also help with students map out their careers. Sure, they do not go individually to them, but how are you trying to do it individually for each student?
Right. I'm not doing it individually, I'm trying to target them based on personas. And when I say mapping out careers, what I'm doing is I'm helping them build a profile and prepare to actually get into a certain job role. What we do now is we do intern prep, we do placement prep, but there's no intentional career building or profile building, and that is the gap I'm aiming to fill. And again, it's not one-on-one, it's about giving the experience of different personas of seniors so students can try to find who they relate with the best.
What exactly is this going to look like? Is it like mentorship or is it some sort of a session you're conducting or an event? What exactly is it?
It's a combination of a booklet and a session.
Again, so you do realize there's something called career design program that was already initiated in the last tenure. How is it different from that? And again, my question is the same. How is it different from what the clubs are already doing?
Right. I'll answer your question by parts. Thank you so much for that. The first initiative, that is the career design program, was a key initiative that Dheer had proposed. There is a huge difference in what we're proposing. Dheer's initiative was essentially a design course to help you think about how you want to choose a career. What I'm doing is I'm not providing any course. I'm putting out a booklet and I also put out a session so you can understand what different types of seniors did. And second, compared to what clubs do not tell you how to build a profile. We give you various resources.
Arjun, second time I'm telling you, please don't take names. Don't take my name. You're supposed to refer to people by their position.
Okay, so my next question is about the retagging window that you mentioned. So, what kind of discrepancies that you think are occurring right now that you're trying to avoid? And also, how does increasing the time of retagging window solve these problems?
Right. So let's start with the discrepancies in IEEE. Essentially, since the retagging window is later and IEEE applications are earlier, we have to manually retag in order for students to increase their CPI if they have to apply for IEEE. Number one. Number two, people who submitted their resume for placements this time, some of them face an issue in department rank calculation because the window was opened quite near to the submission and that had created some issues. When I essentially say I want to increase the retag window, what I want to do is I want to open it after the 6th semester and keep it open for a decent amount of time until the 7th semester starts, a decent amount of time before the resume submission deadline.
Okay, few things here. First of all, IEEE application, yeah, you mentioned that you want to shift the timeline to, let's say, June or July, right?
I want June.
You want to shift the timeline. Currently, it happened in September. You want to shift the timeline to, let's say, after 6th semester would be like June earlier, right?
May last week. Because
okay,
June is IT.
You want May, okay, last week. First of all, even department rank calculation, the DGSEX were made sure that even when they retag, they were able to mention it, may be corrected in their resumes as well. So that is something that you can, you don't solve using the retagging window. Apart from that, if you change the timeline, you also are aware of the final year retagging that also occurs during that time. How do you think a CAD office has the capacity to handle two retaggings happening simultaneously when they can't handle one properly as well?
Right. So first you said that the department ranks were corrected. What we're essentially doing is we're trying to take away that effort that goes into correcting it by essentially opening the window earlier. Number one. Number two, actually the reason why retagging happened separately for 3rd and 4th years previously is because retagging used to happen offline. And in offline, they did not have the capacity to handle both batches together. But now, I have taken the requisite groundwork and I know that the retag portal can in fact handle 3rd and 4th years together. And since it's a window, ASC crashing is also not the biggest issue as it's open for a decent amount of time.
So the first question for Rishabh is about the HS113 course. So have you spoken to the ELIT cabinet head and professor in charge or the students and isolated the issues in the course? How do you think increasing the number of seats is going to help those?
So regarding the British Council seats, I have spoken to both the ELP heads and I got their feedback, as well as I have spoken to the Dean of Student Affairs, the SMPCs, the previous SMPCs, and also I wouldn't go there, but the 2B SMPCs. And from them I understood that there is a requirement to change how the curriculum of HS113 is. This includes to make the course content more IIT Bombay relevant, because currently it is a broad curriculum that just talks about how to use academia English. But the reason why we are going to increase the seats is because currently only 100 to 120 students can take those seats. These 100 to 120 students are those who come in the bottom spectrum of the student community. By increasing the number of seats, we'll be able to serve more students. Our primary goal here is to serve more students. I do understand that there is a game between quality and quantity, and here I aim to solve the number of quantity of students who can take up the course. Thank you.
We have also talked to the cabinet heads, and they said number of seats is not the problem at all. You increase number of seats doesn't solve the major core problem. So again, coming to the same question, how do you think if the course quality is the problem or mechanism of the course is the problem, then number of seats does not help anyone here, and that's the major point.
So I would like to stay firm and say that I do agree that there can be an adaptation of the course content. The course content can be more easily modulated for the students of IITB community. But this course aims to improvise the spoken English grammar, etc. of the students. By increasing the number of seats, you'll be able to give opportunity for more students to undergo such an English course. Along with this, in my tenure, I also envision on how we can adapt the curriculum to the academic needs of the students. But as per my capacity from the ground are taken, we can immediately increase the seats and then look forward on how we can adapt it with the British Council.
You mentioned making this course about academia language more IITB specific. What do you mean making academia language IITB specific?
So currently the course covers contents that are of basic English, like okay, grammar, verbs, adjectives, etc. How do you speak, etc. But the academic needs of the student who come to IIT Bombay and who fall in the bottom 10% of the spectrum would be different. They would want to understand how they can communicate to wingmates, how they can communicate to the professor, how can they communicate more fluently. These kind of needs, to establish this kind of needs, we need a student representative who can convey it to the respective authorities. And I aspire to be that representative.
Okay, so how do you plan to handle logistics if the numbers are increased? Because currently they are not able to handle the mechanism of the course. So how will you handle the logistics?
So for that we need to understand what the current logistics are. Currently it's split into 4 sections. Each section has 1 instructor and each section has 1 TAs. The TAs and instructors come from varying backgrounds. The instructors are provided by the British Council. What I aim to do is to increase the number of instructors and the TA system. And how do I plan to do that is by increasing the funding that the institute provides to the Dean SA's office, through which they can serve, through which they can facilitate an increase in the support of the British Council.
Just to conclude that entire discussion, so the people we spoke to who run this program said the number of seats isn't the problem, but you stick to the fact that you're going to increase that and that's what you're primarily focusing on as AGS. Yes or no, and then we can move on to the next question.
No.
Okay, fine, we'll move on.
The second question is about the FACAD program. So you mentioned about revamping the FACAD program. So have you done your groundwork with any concerned authorities, and how do you think increasing the ratio is going to help the FACAD program?
There's a factual correction. The British Council funding goes through the Dean AP office. Dean SA office may push to increase the funding, but the funds go through Dean AP office because it's an academic course.
But the Dean SA approved that he will be able to provide the facility if we give them a facility.
He'll push for it. The funding goes to the Dean AP office. It's a factual correction. You discussed it. You should accept it. This is not a groundwork. It's a soapbox. Please.
So the second question is about the FACAD program. So you mentioned about revamping the FACAD program. So have you done groundwork with any concerned authorities, and why do you think increasing the ratio is going to help the program?
So first part of the question, yes, I have done my groundwork with the required concerned authorities that include the administration of the institute-wide councils that exist as well as department-wide councils. Why do I believe that increasing the FACADs would resolve this issue? For that we need to understand what the current issue is. Currently, students believe that the FACADs currently the faculties have a lot of administrative burden, due to which they do not have sufficient bandwidth to cater to the students. Additionally, the faculties are also not aware on how they can serve the students. In order to mitigate this, by increasing the number of faculties, we are decreasing the number of administrative load per faculty. Given that the number of administrative load per faculty decreases, this enables a faculty to have a broader bandwidth to interact with the students and hence enhance the faculty program.
Okay, so what ratio are you expecting to bring, and how many HODs have you talked to suggest this ratio?
So the ratio we are looking to is currently, let's assume the number of faculties to students is 1:30. We are looking to have in the lines of 1:18 or 1:24.
Okay, so you mentioned that there are other problems that exist apart from the ratio, right? That the faculties are not aware of all of these issues. So again, you decreasing the ratio from 30 to let's say 18 or to 24, it's not that drastic of a difference, right? Let's say then also how is it solving the problem that exists? The underlying problem is still the faculties are not being aware of all of these issues that students are facing.
Yeah, I agree with the question. What we did by increasing the number of faculties is to provide each faculty a bandwidth. Now comes the question, how do we utilize this bandwidth? And that's where the second line of the same initiative comes into the picture. The faculties now, instead of having the students allocated roll number wise, the students will be allocated to the faculty wing wise. That way, the wing, the SMP team and the faculties will be in a check and balance system. Additionally, we'll be reinforcing a faculty brochure, and this faculty brochure will be formalized by the Dean AP's office. This faculty brochure will mention what are the expectations of the student from the faculty, when can a faculty intervene, how can the faculty intervene, etc. And since it is formalized, the faculties will be following it.
You said that you will update the faculty brochure. So what is the status of the current handbook, and where does it lack effectiveness which you are going to improve?
So previously there was a proposal by the previous GSS to initiate a faculty booklet, but as of now there is no concrete booklet in existence. The current booklet plan that used to be there was to have the technicalities of a faculty, that is how do you help a student increase the credit limits, etc. But based on the current affairs, not only should the faculty be aware of the technicalities, but also the faculty needs to be aware on how can they help the student community, how can they mitigate the stress of the students, how can they hear the students, and as the student representative that I aspire to be, it is my duty to convey to the faculties on how they can be better student facilities.
Could you just answer how you're going to do that rather than what you're going to do?
So how we're going to do is we'll be collecting the data from HODs, from faculties, from other student representatives on what are the needs of a current student and what do they expect from the faculties. Once we have this collocated and audited by various administrations, we'll be passing it to the Dean AS's office or Dean AP's office for further validity. Thank you.
Guys, so we'll move to the next section of the soapbox. We'll take questions from the audience. We'll take 3 questions from the audience for each candidate. So people that want to ask are... Please go back, guys. Okay, so now we will open the floor for audience. So only 4 people can come to ask the question. First 4 will be allowed to ask questions. Okay? Okay. अरे भाई बोला ही नहीं मैंने कुछ आने के लिए। तुम क्यों भाग रहे हो? मैंने बोला नहीं। Okay. Okay, so we will start with the first question for Deep. Sorry. First question for Rishabh.
Hi Rishabh. So you mentioned a couple of points including clubs in your resume. I just want to understand whether you have done the groundworks with all the three club managers, the managers of all the three clubs, and what is the depth of those groundworks?
So yeah, I've done groundworks with two of the managers from the current council, all the three managers from the previous council, as well as the ones who have graduated. And the depth of it, I mean, we had a couple, in total there was at least 8 to 10 hours of groundworks regarding clubs, and not only regarding groundworks to initiate the ideas, I also took students' perspectives, saw if it was useful, came back to the same club manager to see if this can be done or not.
Don't you think it was necessary to do a set of groundworks with the current managers as well?
I did do it with the current managers, in fact I did it with 2 of the current club managers.
So
Okay, now question for Arjun. Hi, this is regarding the fourth initiative, regarding the R&D project in C-Mines. Are you sure it doesn't already run? Because I am registered for DS 691 this semester. I mailed the HOD at the beginning of the semester to get this course running, and it was shown on ASC 2 semesters back as well. Why is this an initiative?
Thank you so much for this question. This highlights the depth of my groundworks actually. So I have spoken in C-Mines, and the C-Mines DPGC has recently taken a decision to disallow UG students to register for DS 691. If you would have done the groundworks, you would have known, but I have an idea.
I am currently registered for this course.
It's not allowed from the next semester. That was my point.
Yes, so hi Rishabh. So my question is regarding 2 of your manifesto points. You wrote that you will create a unified academic research center webpage, and also you have mentioned that you will introduce IIT Bombay Careerpedia website. So have you done groundworks with the current web team, and have you talked about the feasibility and the entire workflow of the web team throughout the year in the UGSC?
I have taken groundworks from both the previous web teams, therefore and with groundworks from them, I realized that there is sufficient bandwidth to ideate these initiatives. Additionally, based on the quality, I've also taken groundworks from the required ISAs to go ahead with it.
My question is whether you have done with the current web team or not. And I'm asked about the feasibility and the workflow of your website process making.
Since I've taken a sincere and long groundwork from the previous webheads, I found it was not necessary for me to again do a repetitive groundwork with the current webheads for the name of it. Additionally, regarding the feasibility as well as the aspects of it, the previous webheads have confirmed that this is feasible and can be done.
So there's a clarification. Rishabh, you have done groundworks with 2 out of the 4 current club managers. There's no discussion on this. This is what we have gotten. Okay?
Can you please just shut up? Next question for Arjun.
This is in line with your manifesto point on category 5 redefinement and the category limit redefinement. Can you let me know what category 5 is exactly?
Category 5 essentially means if you cannot clear more than 18 credits in any one of the previous 2 registered semesters.
And can you let me know what is the category limit, credit limit for the same? And have you done any groundworks to analyze what are the sample cases in the past which would have benefited from this category redefinement that you are doing?
Right. The current credit limit is 30, and yes, I have done these groundworks.
Hi Rishabh. So as I think all of you are aware, recently we've had a student forging his documents and his resume. And
No question. Additionally, just to address that, if you have any concerns regarding that, there's an official placement body that you can ask these questions to.
This question is not valid. You are not allowed to make personal attacks in these questions. Please.
Hi Rishabh, I have a query about your manifesto point about Enthuse 2. So is Enthuse 2 basically you wanting freshies to run around large state-of-the-art labs to find clues in your small little game? Because if that is, I don't get why anyone would allow such an event to happen. You have currently open lab days, you have lab open days, and these lab open days already are very rare because even though you have PhDs and research assistants around the lab monitoring people coming in to see the lab, it's always a risk to the lab. You are proposing something where you have people going around the lab and extensively searching for things which would place. Why would this ever happen?
So first off, that is an absolute incorrect assumption of what the event means. If had you had the manifesto point much better, you would have realized what it actually means to convey. Second is open lab day that currently does not exist. What open lab means to do is a student from the same department can visit the lab. Currently the issues with the open lab facilities, we are unable to get multiple labs to open on the same day. With the initiative that I am pushing for, there is no need for this to happen.
So open lab days currently do happen. The DRC of physics department did do it this year, and hence there is precedent for it to happen. You are allowing people to extensively search labs. Why will this ever happen? I'm just repeating my question.
So the definition of the open lab, what we mean by open lab day is when all the departments open their labs on the same day and enable students from multiple departments to access. Such a thing has not happened. Individually, departments might have opened all the labs on the same day. That is a whole different prospect. Second is you are not visiting the labs. There will be a representative at the labs entrance who will explain about the labs. You will solve the questions in front of the labs and then head to the next lab. There is no interaction with any of the facilities there, or not there's disturbance to anything.
Next question for Arjun.
So an entire body that is an integral part of the UGFE is absent from your manifesto. Does your manifesto imply that the international relations would no more be a part of the UGFE?
My manifesto does not imply that. This time we had a cap of 30 points and the manifesto last time had 40 points, and the reason I was not able to include that is because there were many students that I wanted to impact who needed academic support, and the hostel council also takes care of international relations, and we are gladly happy to collaborate with them at all times, and we will continue to work on these initiatives together.
So you're meaning to say that as the head of the UGSE, you would prefer to ignore an entire part of the council just because you already have stuff on the plate, and you're pushing that responsibility to a different council. I just want to clarify that.
I prefer you don't twist my words. You're in fact just saying things to attack me. That is not what I meant. I meant that the hostel council also works on this. We will be collaborating on it. I had many initiatives that have to impact students who need more help, and we haven't focused on them before, and I'm doing that while collaborating with them, with the hostel council in the tenure. So please don't misconstrue my words. That is not a great thing to do.
Before the next question, there is a factual correction for Rishabh. You said that lab days don't happen. Actually, Chemical and EP have started those.
Deep, when we mention open lab day, it means when all the departments open the labs on the same day. It was supposed to be a PAN DRC event when all the DRCs come.
You said lab open days don't happen. Okay, you said lab open days don't happen. Rishabh, you said lab open days don't happen. They happen. You should be clear with what you are saying. You said lab open days don't happen. This is not your debate. You said lab open days don't happen. Lab open days happen. If that is what you wanted to convey, you should have said.
Lab open days do happen.
We move on with the question. We move on with the question.
So, hi Rishabh, one of your points was to push to reduce the mandated CPI criteria in the IEEE on a case-to-case basis. Have you done appropriate groundworks on how the IEEE department will react to it? Besides, the ultimate decision for this would be directed by the director, who is the chairperson of the Senate. How would you know the opinion without doing groundworks with them?
I've done the necessary groundwork with the admins.
But how would you, my question was, how do you know the ultimate decision for this, which would be taken by the director, who is the chairperson of the Senate?
Because I have done the required groundworks.
Which exact groundworks did you do with them? Can you name them?
Clarification, am I allowed to name the position? Okay, one position such was the Dean AP.
I'm talking about the director who is the chairperson of the Senate.
The Dean AP is on board to push this proposal. That's the agreement I got. When if elected as a GSA, I'll be able to go to the Dean AP's office and continue this proposal where the Dean AP will propose it further.
Hi Arjun, this is regarding your third point in the three initiatives regarding the course buddy program. Can you please tell me why the ARP TA pilot program failed?
The Course Buddy program does not relate to the ARPTA pilot program. The reason it failed was due to lack of oversight.
Sorry, I was the ISA square and in my previous capacity I worked on it. The reason that program failed was because both at the institute level and the department level, there were no financial aid provided. And you in your manifesto video have mentioned that you are going to provide financial incentives to the TAs. If that is not being worked, how is this going to be worked?
I have taken the requisite groundwork from Dean AP and he is on board to provide financial incentives for this program.
Guys, settle down. We'll be starting with the closing statements in another 2 minutes.
we move on to the final section of the soapbox, which is closing statements. Just before that, some notes. First, we'll have the candidates leave once the soapbox is done. Then you guys should leave. and please leave. We'll let you guys go in batches. Please maintain decorum. If not, EDAG लगा देंगे, ठीक है? So please. So we move to the final section of the soapbox, which is closing statements. Also, people standing at the side, either come and take a seat or go away. Don't block the set. We'll move on to the closing statements. Each of you get 2 minutes each. Arjun, you can go first.
Thank you everyone present here, including people who are standing for me, people who are standing for my respective contestant as well. You have motivated me to give my best today, and you have motivated me to put out my views and my vision of what I would do if elected GSAA UG. I also thank the EC for helping me put my points forward and providing me this platform. I would like to thank Insight for the very insightful questions that they've asked to help me explain my manifesto points better. And furthermore, I would like to thank all of you who asked me a question to help me show the depth of my groundworks and the impact I will make in the institute. Thank you.
Arjun, please do something. We do that. You don't need to do that. Please. Rishabh, you want to begin.
First of all, I would like to wish my candidate best of luck. And second, I would also encourage our student community to take a well-informed decision. If elected as the General Secretary of Academic Affairs, UG, I will try to make the campus a more academically conducive place and ensure educational inclusivity to every student.